I'm Captain Stephen Kessling at Adventure Charters out of Edmonds, Washington. And today we're going to be fishing for Puget Sound crab in Marine Area 9. Today is September 4th, 2017. It's the last day of the crab season. We're about to pull our last pot for the day. We're set in an area where we're fishing between 50 and 80 feet deep. So we're going to use a power hauler. It's called the Power Hauler. It's by Discovery Bay Marine Gear. I can't say enough good things about this power hauler. It is really does a nice job. I've owned several different types of haulers used for pulling crab pots and pulling shrimp pots, and a lot of them, they just aren't made as tough and as strong as this particular one is. This is almost like a light commercial pot puller. It's for serious fishermen. We need to turn the boat a little bit more. We've got quite a bit of angle on our line right here. When we do retrieve it, it retrieves pretty quickly. We don't want the cord to rub on the boat and take off the bottom paint that's on the boat. So we just maneuver the boat with our kicker so we have a good angle on the line. Turn the power hauler on and let it do the work. Just kind of guide the line as it comes down, and it will almost self-coil. These are the best pots that I've ever used, these square traps that have the cod trigger fingers on them. Primarily reason is because large crabs can't get out of them. All the other pots, large crabs, once all the bait's gone and they've been sitting for a long time, the crabs start escaping the trap. I've had these traps at sometimes out for over a week and come back and they're filled with crabs. The first trap that I got like this outfished all the other traps I was using put together, and I've switched to them, and they're the only thing I'm using now, and it's really increased the catches that I'm seeing. Okay, is that an undersized McCann?
Yes.
So what do you see in here? Do you see any females? See any soft shell? There's a nice one. That's a nice crab right there. Huge. These are Dungeness crabs. This is a male. You can tell it's a male by the shape of the underside of the belly. This is a female crab. To be a keeper, one of the crabs, it has to be a male, it has to be a hard shell, and it has to be greater than 6 1/4 inches. All crabs that are not legal should be released right away. So we'll let this female go back. This male crab, this is a crab measurer here. The right place to measure them is just inside of these outer points on the crab right here. And this crab easily makes it as well an inch over. And the last thing that we need to check for is that a crab is a hard shell, so which means it hasn't recently molted. So when we squeeze the legs here, the legs are firm. Another good point to check, it's a little bit tricky, it's right behind the claw here on the upper underside of the shell here, that this is firm, it hasn't recently molted. Once you've checked a lot of them, you can kind of do it by color. When they have a lot of dark color to them like this, you know that this crab is going to be really a hard shell crab. And then even a more mature, harder shell crab is going to be what we call the deep purple. A crab that's deep purple around the edges like here. And this one even has barnacles growing on it. And that means that this crab has had its shell for a long time. When crabs molt, their outer shell comes off. They have a new softer shell that's inside, really fragile. The crab blows itself up with water and stretches out its new shell and buries itself in the mud and will stay there for several weeks. When it emerges from the mud, it is still pretty soft and progressively gets harder and harder as the crab actually grows into its new shell. So this crab is fairly a soft shell. It's not super soft, but it is a bit soft, and you can see the legs are whiter. They're whiter, not as old looking as what a hard crab is, a hard shell crab is. Holy smokes, we got a good haul. Stand up here, buddy. Up. Just going really good.
Look how small that one is.
Look how big that one is. Each one of these pots is secured by a piece of rock cord on here. So if in case the pot were to be lost, this cotton cord here would eventually rot apart, and this, what's securing the door, would be released so that the pot wouldn't continue to just be fishing, never retrieved in case it was swept away or if it was lost for one reason or another. This is about as big as a Puget Sound Dungeness gets. It's a good idea when you set your pots out, if you have the equipment to do it, GPS their locations so that you can find them, you can tell where you started from, especially if you come back on a foggy day to pull your pots, so you can find them in the fog. It just only takes a minute to just put their locations in. Comes in fast.
Yeah, it does. Woo. Oh, look at that guy. Woo. Does that mean it's an old crab, or does that have to deal with the conditions that
it's been a long time since it has molted.
Oh, okay.
So if they can be quite hard shell, but if they've got barnacles on them.
Sure you want to do that?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Some barnacles on them. And this guy hasn't molted in a while.
Oh man! Wow. That's wild. Look at that.
Another important thing to increase your crab production is using a bait container, like this really strong nylon mesh here. Using a lot of bait is important. The crabs are coming into the trap because of scent. The more bait you're using, the more scent you're putting in the water, the more crabs you're going to attract. Once the crabs get into the trap, if they can totally get at your bait, if your bait is just hanging or tied in there, the first few crabs that are going to get in there are going to just tear up the bait, they're going to eat all the bait, and it quickly becomes less effective. If you put your bait in a container like this, now the crabs, they can get at a little bit, and there's enough to keep them interested that they can chew on it, but they can't really get at your bait, they can't really tear it all up, and the pot's going to fish much more effectively for a longer period of time. So we would fill this with chicken or fish scraps, then we tie it shut, and then we hang it in the middle of the trap, right in the center.